r/AskReddit, Asians. What type of racism have you endured since the coronavirus came out? My favorite Chinese restaurant has lost massive amounts of customers in the past month. It used to be one of the most popular places to eat, but because the entire staff is Chinese, people are afraid to eat there anymore. I'm just enjoying the uncrowded buffet. That must suck for them. Just the casual joke from my friends when I cough, sniffle, or sneeze a little too much. Replies like this on posts that make you angry really calm you down. My Asian friend said that as he was passing outside of a primary school, a group of kids yelled at him, "It's Corona time." He stopped and approached the gate and said, "Oh no, I feel a sneeze coming," and the kids ran away. He said it was the most hilarious thing that has ever happened to him. I have found this irrational fear of Asians incredibly useful. I was traveling by plane and wore a mask. Whether it's fighting for baggage space or moving along in crowded places, people scatter. I had the middle seat and both people leaned far away from me, giving me plenty of space. I'll keep this in mind. I'll speak for my in-laws. They live in the US and haven't been to China in over a year. They vacationed in Florida recently and were denied entry into a restaurant. They took it in stride and weren't too offended, but found it to be very disrespectful and discriminatory. And were denied entry into a restaurant. Hey, I've seen this one. A 5, 6, 7-year-old boy saw me come on a train and yelled, "It's Corona time." This is TikTok's fault. It's a common meme over there. My parents put up some decorations on their front door for Chinese New Year's. Red banners with gold lettering around the door frame. And someone egged the house. I'm Chinese. People keep shouting at me. I'm a pretty small 14-year-old girl and I literally had a grown man follow me down an alleyway shouting about how I should go back to my country and how I'm infectious. I sure hope this thing stops. I've hated reading every single comment here, but I think I hated this one the most. No one should have to deal with that. Was walking to lunch in school. Some year 7 kid looked at me and said loudly, "Look, the coronavirus is coming." I'm a bit tempted to sneeze on him just to scare the kid now. I support that urge. Do it. In the US, in a state where there is not a single case of coronavirus, my 7th grader's best friend is half Filipino. She has never been to China and hasn't been outside of the US in nearly a year. She has kids refusing to sit anywhere near her at lunch or in class, and some kids even put masks on around her. It's absolute horseshit. That's terrible. My friend is Japanese and a taxi pulled up to her while she was walking down the street. The driver pulled down his window and started making mocking Chinese-like sounds. When she told him she was Japanese, not Chinese, he replied, "You're all the same and you're all sick. WTF is wrong with humanity?" Some lady demanded I leave a public area next to a shopping center. When I refused, she left and then charged at me a few minutes later, this making me slam my head into a metal trash can. I was eating froyo and went to go trash the cup. Also, I still get a lot of disgusted looks from people, like, "Hello world, I'm Chinese. Doesn't mean I have the ducking virus. We're not all the same, with the same intellect, disease, whatever. You'd think humans could be more mature after everything. But hell no." I'm not Asian, but I got sick a couple weeks ago and my boss straight up asked if I had been around any Chinese people. I imagine this is pretty common. I am only half Chinese, so I look kind of ambiguous and haven't experienced anything directed at me yet. But my full Asian friends have experienced a lot. One person had to protect another Asian in an NYC subway station because a man was shouting at her, calling her a diseased beach. Then another Asian friend of mine also on the NYC subway sneezed into his arm and everyone looked at him and he had to explain he's not Chinese and that he's never been to Asia. And then when they all were relieved as he left, he explained that it was messed up to act that way even if he's not Chinese. Not an Asian, but there is this one Asian kid at my school and he got shut in a cupboard during maths because he needed to be quarantined while the teacher wasn't looking. Then they pushed a table in front of the cupboard so he couldn't get out. My friend moved the table, but then the teacher started shouting at her for moving it. I opened the door and he got out and the teacher gave him a detention for being in the cupboard. The entire class, minus the people who shut him in the cupboard, were saying it wasn't his fault, but he had the detention anyway. Every time I going out without wear my mask on, people leave me alone pretty fast. Ironically, where I am, Central Europe, people assume that if you are Chinese Asian and you do wear the mask, it means you probably need it and are sick in some way. And if you need the mask, you have the virus. I was at a grocery store in the alcohol department. I was minding my own business and then these college students begin to slowly walk towards me whispering and giggling. PST, we need to put on our masks. They stopped about 6 feet away from me. I looked at them dead in the eyes and coughed. Then I said, your healthcare should be able to cover for that. I'm not even Chinese. I'm Indian. I made the mistake of saying that on a Minecraft server and got myself banned mayo. Reason by one of the admins cause of coronavirus spreading around the world. I was on a Delta flight, and as people boarded the plane, they would see me and cover their face. I'm a Korean American, and have been living in the Midwest for 30 plus years. Not me, but currently sitting on a packed train which only has one seat empty. The one next to a young Asian man was about to sit down because duck people but a nice lady sat before me. People automatically think that a person of Asian descent has coronavirus. Most of Asian people I see are Brit citizens just like me, not traveling from Wuhan. Even if you are prejudiced because of the scaremongering, it's a congested train. What is making someone feel deliberately shit because you're afraid to sit next to them going to do? It's train. You're already infected? People continue to amaze me. Both my parents are Vietnamese refugees but I was born in Belgium. I went on a ski trip 2 weeks ago in France. When I was walking in an après-ski bar, one dude who was walking out shouted, "Looks, coronavirus just walked in." Luckily, my boyfriend and one of my best friends, who both heard it, went off on the guy. The smug expression on his face disappeared very quickly. I went to Hong Kong and Taiwan to visit family during fall break and my teacher who had known about the trip and announced it to the class. So the entire class mutually agreed to put me in the back corner and having me wear a face mask every time I step in. I just started the online version of that class because I wasn't going to deal with the ignorance of those people. So far, I have not experienced any to my face. I do live in a very accepting part of Ohio though, so I'm probably lucky. The same type of racism we've been enduring since before the coronavirus. Not Asian, but in the media here was a case in which someone kinda famous threw out someone Asian who rented an apartment, if I remember right, because the famous person was afraid of the coronavirus. Like nope. That's not how it works. Also some Asian restaurants have way less guests now coming in. TBH, those people are just extremely stupid emo. Edit. Oh gosh, that's a stupid typo. What I'm learning from this thread is that the excellent Chinese buffet I usually avoid due to crowds is probably no longer crowded but still delicious. Comments on photos of myself that I post. She has coronavirus. I go over to her friend's house. She tells me later that her dad joked about me having coronavirus. When Asian students are out sick, teachers joke they have coronavirus. It's the little things but it still hurts. Edit. I'm 15. Yes, I'm young. I'm a sophomore still in high school. I may have never experienced the truly hurtful forms of racism, but I am not exaggerating by saying it hurt me. Please do not demean my feelings. A friend of my wife has a son that is constantly being racially bullied along with 3 other foreign kids of different national origins. They are Chinese and the little shit that bullies runs ahead of him daily yelling, "Watch out, coronavirus is here. Stay away or you'll die." Her son pushed him up against a locker and wouldn't let him move and told him to stop doing it after 2 weeks. Only he got detention despite everyone in the school knowing what has been happening. Currently the mom is talking to the administrators and a lawyer. The kid went to detention and refused to apologize to the kid, which got him suspended. Now the school tries to give him detention for announcing the bully is a racist every time he does what he does. Bully still has not received any reprimanded because he is a white kid in a white district. The Chinese kid is also on the honor roll and the bully apparently has issues with behavior and bad grades, but is hardly ever punished. I coughed cause I swallowed my water incorrectly and someone near me told me to go back to where I came from. Not Asian, but my Navy friend who is stationed in Japan came home on leave this week and brought me gifts. When I proudly showed them to a few co-workers, They all cringed and told me that they didn't want to get infected with coronavirus. I was stunned that they weren't aware that China and Japan are different countries. So, my brother lives in China with his Chinese wife, close to Wuhan. A future in-law of mine has been pushing his political agenda conspiracy theories on me, and finds it appropriate to try to convince me that the Chinese are developing viruses and diseases that will affect everyone but Asians. It's disgusting, really. Not sure how true it is, but I had heard many American Chinese restaurants have been struggling more than normal because some racist people associate the coronavirus with anything Asian. As such, after hearing that, we have ordered Chinese from our local restaurant a little more frequently than normal. I was in the UK a while ago and went into a restaurant. An old man started mumble yelling something like, "Damn Chinese, you probably have that bloody virus. Go home." I'm Japanese for one thing. I'm half white, half Filipino. I've experienced none because people think I'm Mexican. We got kids making fun of China. I'm not sure if this is related to the question, but we're Asian but not Chinese, and our Asian history teacher was going to open a new topic about the Chinese civilization, and to start the topic she asked us a question. What comes to your mind when you hear the word China? Immediately kids start raising their hands and shouting stuff like fake plastic coronavirus. After hearing the answers, our teacher told us to put ourselves inside their shoes and that we also would be hurt if someone called us that. We all listened in silence and realized how ignorant we were being. I applaud my teacher for doing that and hope people would also realize that they, Chinese, also didn't want that to happen. People wouldn't sit next to me on the plane. I love it. My non-Chinese lecturer basically said that Chinese eat anything that moves. Disgusting with half-joking manner to majority Chinese class. I personally don't find the joke in it tbh. Friend was going to the laundromat yesterday and a guy came up to her, covered his mouth and shouted "Corona, Corona." Then he ran away. He came back again later and did the same thing. SMH, NYCBTW. Nothing verbal to me, but people have crossed the street to move away, and have asked my partner, she's white, while I'm next to her, why she's with me because I will make her sick. How I don't know, and asked her why I am not wearing a mask like those other rude C word for Far Eastern people. Note, I live in a town that is hugely popular with tourists. Those have come from tourists. I'm not Chinese, but I'd like to answer for my recent Uber driver who brought this topic up when I got into the car. Anyways, we were talking and I started coughing cause I have a cold, but I apologized and said I'm sorry, but I covered my mouth. And he laughed and forgave me but said it's alright. Thank you for accepting my ride and being so nice. I don't have the coronavirus. You'd be surprised how many people opened my door and immediately closed it, but then taped on the window and said they weren't getting in my car because I most likely have the virus. I felt so bad for him, because I'm sure some comments were worse than what he told me. Recently got blood work done at a lab. The waiting room is split into two halves. About 9 chairs on one side wrapping around the walls, and another 7 chairs on the other half. I'm on the side with 9 chairs and seated at the very end. I look up and see everyone is sitting next to each other, filling up the 7 chairs and staring at me and whispering. Yep, it's not common you see strangers sitting next to each other when there's plenty of room to give one chair space in between. When I got my blood work and walked out, a few of the ladies were covering their mouth and nose, and watched my every move. As I opened the door, I turned back and did a fake cough spasm, covering my mouth of course. I'm not a complete monster lol. I'm white. My kids are half Viet. My son came home from school and told me his friend said he needed a mask so he doesn't kill them all. Ducking disgusting. Someone called me a bat eating beach. Peace hand sign. Jesus. Seriously? What is wrong with people? I've seen memes of when the Asian kid in your class starts coughing or something like that. I'm not Asian, but I do have the flu. My boss told me to not come back to work until I'm completely finished coughing. Partly that's good advice, but also everyone is jumpy and I work directly with a wide variety of undergrads. Normally I'd go back to work when I'm no longer feverish and can stand up without feeling woozy, but might have a lingering, harmless cough. The amount of times I've been picked up by an Uber driver who then subtly puts on a mask is hilarious. I wouldn't say this is racist, but it's definitely funny that on the account of me being Asia, the guy decides he better put on a mask, even though we're in NY and not in Asia. I don't leave my house much, so I haven't directly experienced it, but my girlfriend has. I'm Chinese and Korean and she's Japanese. We're in the part Canada where racism is a thing, but they won't really say it in front of you. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.